JonnyPink, that beautiful lens that you see behind me right there, that is my Canon 600 f4. It's a stupidly expensive lens. I got rid of all of my old stuff that I had that was sitting in bags that I hadn't used in a long time. I looked at it as far as a trade-in. Yeah, I'm going to take a loss on it, but if it's sitting in a bag not doing me any good, then it's still a loss no matter what I do. At least if I trade it in. The way I looked at it is, if it's sitting in a bag, it's not doing me any good. If I trade it in and I put it towards the lens I want, which is this one right here, to me it's worth it because it's like I rented it for a long time. I don't have to go through the hassle of trying to sell it to somebody, them not being happy with it. So for me, I traded it to B&H and it worked out extremely well for me. It got me enough so that I'm only financing a very little tiny bit of that. Going back to lenses from my last one, from my last bunch of videos, and I'll link them over here all in a little cluster. That was with the A6700, and the last video that I did on that, I showed samples from different lenses. What do you look for in a wildlife lens? For me, what I really, really want is clarity. The reason some of these lenses are so stupidly expensive is because they offer that clarity. The zooms have to be clear, or mostly clear, all the way through their zoom range. You have a variable aperture because of that. If it was a constant aperture, say Canon's 70 to 200 or 24 to 70, and they're an f4 all the way through, there's a lot of stuff going in on the... watching a butterfly. There's a lot of stuff going on the inside to keep that going and to keep it sharp. There's a reason you pay so much. So for everybody that if you're looking for a great wildlife lens, what are you looking for in a wildlife lens? Reach? Is it weight? Is it cost? Whatever that is, that's the perfect lens for you. For me, I don't mind the weight of this, which I'll take you and talk to you about my strap in a second because I've had a lot of questions on that one too. I do carry a gimbal. It works for video, but for the most part, I'd rather be hand-holding and struggling a little bit. This weighs so much less than my old 500 f4. it's not that bad. And if I'm only holding it for a little bit, then it's not a big deal. I get tired, I put it back on this and I shoot, but then you realize how restricted you are. I wasn't a fan of the 200 to 600 from Sony. I liked that focal distance. I really liked what it offered, but especially the price point. Until the A6700, I wasn't crazy about the Sony raw files, the color, the depth inside that. It didn't do it for me, so it wasn't right for me. Other people, they're happy with it, fantastic. But I like that A6700, and I do want one just because I want one with that 600, and I liked it for macro too. I thought what it offers is fantastic. And if you're just starting out and you want something that is inexpensive, well, what's inexpensive to you? Canon, they're $1,400 for the R7 for a lot of reach. The RF 100 to 400, it isn't that fast, but it's affordable. You know, so for about $2,500, you have a fantastic little setup. A bridge camera for $1,000, that is another option that I think is pretty fantastic. Regional jet, and there's an osprey flying overhead. I didn't get into the Sony enough to see what limitations it has. I had it for 4 days, and I shot as much as I could, going through the menus as much as I could, because it's different. Give me a new Canon, and I know what's inside the menus. Boom, it's done, and I'm moving on. There's 2 ospreys out here. I'm gonna have to go get some ospreys too. But anyway, so James and I were out here, and hand-holding with this 600, I was able to get what I call faux macro shots, and it's so sharp that I can zoom way in and it still looks crisp and clear. I was getting that with Sony's 200 to 600 on the A6700. My other favorite Canon lens, but it is expensive, is that 100 to 500. It's an oddball lens, but that minimum focal distance of about, I don't know, 2 feet, that just makes it so amazing, and it's so sharp. And that's the reason that it is so expensive. It's an oddball lens. I would guess that when they come out with their 200 to 600, which I think they just patented, or they submitted an application for a patent, it will be less expensive, but it will be a slower lens. If you're newer to photography, slower means that it doesn't let as much light in. So if you're shooting an 85 for an event, or a 50 mil and you get a 1.2, that's how wide that opens up to let in a lot of light. An F7 comes down this way, an F9, an F11, it's more like a pinhole. F22 is a pinhole. The rumors on the Beatles photo for Abbey Road was the photographer was holding an Hasselblad, all film at that time, up on a ladder. They blocked the street for a very short time, shot about 7 photos at F22 so that everything is in focus. Old technology if you know what you're doing, man, and obviously that person did. But let me talk to you now about my strap. Okay, one thing you may have seen is that I keep 2 points of contact. Well, I always keep it strapped to my tripod. If you've ever dropped a lens off your tripod, it is heart-wrenching. So I keep it strapped. If it falls or I just didn't tighten it enough, that strap will hold it or slow it down enough so that it doesn't damage when it hits the ground. It works. This is a cheap strap from Amazon. I'll leave the link down below. It comes with this that I attach to the body, sometimes to the lens. But on the side of the lens over here, I've got the strap that you would normally put on here, but I attach it here so I have 2 points of contact. I've had these break. I have extra of these. If it breaks, this holds onto it, and then I just put it back onto my gimbal. Oh man, look at these little butterflies. The hardest thing with a long lens is finding your subject in the eyepiece. It was much easier with the old DSLRs because everything was always in focus. And you're seeing through your EVF what your camera is seeing, so it is just slightly more difficult. Anyway, that's it. This is a cheap strap. I keep 2 points of contact at all time. That's why it always looks like this. I really like this one. It's a cheap, inexpensive strap. I think it was $16, whereas if you get some of these others, they're $30, $40, $50. And I can't see spending that much for something that will eventually break anyway. JonnyPink, again, thank you so much for letting me share with you guys. Please give it the proverbial, no, don't give it a proverbial, give it a real thumbs up. Give it a gazillion thumbs up. Share it with somebody if you would like. You're welcome to subscribe. But more than anything, all I ask is that if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys. Who says you can't handhold this thing? Of course you can. Of course you can. It's a little heavy and it does get tiring. I wouldn't want to handhold it for hours and hours and hours on end, but for a couple, half hour, 2 hours, it's fine.